Joe Fortenbaugh here for OddsShark, where it's time to talk about Week 9 in the NFL. But before we do that, we've got to clear out all the bad mojo from last week. That's right, boys and girls, it's time for Bankroll Busters. We begin in college football, where the end of that TCU West Virginia game, absolutely ridiculous. TCU laying 7.5 at West Virginia. They've got the ball, they've got a 3-point lead, it's 4th and 1, 20 seconds to go on the West Virginia 29-yard line. If you sneak forward and get the yard, you can kneel it out. If you sneak forward and get stopped, you can still stop West Virginia. So what do? They throw a 29-yard touchdown pass to the end zone, covering the spread and going over the total in the process. The Sharps were on West Virginia. That was a horrendous beat. I really don't even know who to blame. Do you blame Sonny Dykes for the play call? Do you blame West Virginia's defense? If you're on TCU, you absolutely loved it. But that game had to be addressed because it was the most ridiculous ending of anything from a gambling perspective this past weekend. To the National Football League, where, once again, the Detroit Lions make an appearance in this segment. Nobody knows how to build a lead and then defecate it away like the Lions. This week, they're at home, catching 3.5 against Miami. They were up 21-7 in the second quarter of this game, with the spread that's 24.5-7. Naturally, you know where we're going. They didn't just lose, they failed to cover. They gave up a 24-6 run to Miami the rest of the way. 24-6. That's 1 week after going to Dallas, taking a 6-3 lead, and then giving up a 21-0 run the rest of the way. I'll just get it backwards moving forward. Nobody plays worse second halves than these guys, and I thought that was reserved for Baltimore. Right, Dan Quinn, I want to like you. I want to like the Lions. Come on, man. Like, we watch you on Hard Knocks. We want to root for you, but you can't keep snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Stop costing us money, man. Please. More on them in a little bit. I might be back on them this weekend. Good God, I don't know why. And then there's Cliff Kingsbury, final bankroll buster of the week. This guy's something else. All right, if you didn't see, wearing the sunglasses in the dome in Minnesota, if you're winning games, it looks awesome. We all want to do it. We all wish we were you. If you're losing games and everyone knows you're going to get fired, it just looks foolish. Once again, here come the Cardinals, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They had a 17-14 lead in the third quarter. They're catching 3.5 points, 4 points at the closing line in this game. All right, you get to the fourth, about 9 minutes to go. They muff a punt. They give up an immediate touchdown, and from here on out, we got about 8 minutes where they had 3 possessions to try to find their way inside the number. You know what they did? They threw an interception, then they came back and crapped their pants and blew it on a 4th down conversion, and then they ran out of time at the end of the game. All the while, it took Kingsbury too long to get the plays in. They had to burn timeouts in awful spots. Kingsbury, you stink. We're supposed to be able to bet on you on the road and as a dog, right? Everyone knows don't bet him home, don't bet him as a favorite, bet him on the road as a dog. Brutal. Guy's absolutely brutal. So those are the bankroll busters. Let's clear the mojo. Let's flip the script. Let's move into our big game bets, or best bets for the week, however you want to phrase it. Here are 3 I've already locked in. Number 1, Washington Commanders, plus 3.5 over the Minnesota Vikings. I do not like this Minnesota team, and I'm probably still a bit jaded from what happened last week, but let me just explain it like this. They're 6-1. Hooray! They're being outgained by an average of 37 yards per game. How is that possible? How can you be 6-1 and getting outgained by 37 yards per game every week? Commanders have won 3 straight. Great run defense, can generate consistent pressure. Taylor Heineke as a starting quarterback, last 10 games, 8-2 against the number. I like the Commanders plus the 3.5. Game number 2. The Miami Dolphin team total is 25.5 points. Bet the over in Chicago against the Bears. The Bears ranked 19th in scoring defense, 19th in opponent yards per play. And then they took their 2 best defenders and traded them away, Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. Right? Miami's averaging 24 points per game, which might worry you a bit. 2.5 games without Tua Tagovailoa as quarterback, that's what hurt the average. It's an explosive offense. They're going over 25.5 in Chicago. And then game number 3, beat it, Cliff Kingsbury. Seattle's like plus 115 on the money line. I'm just going to play him to win. Kingsbury at home in his career very much will cost you a lot of money ATS. Kingsbury as a favorite in his career very much will cost you a lot of money ATS. Here comes Seattle. Like, they keep covering. We're picking them every week, and they're covering, and they're looking good. They nailed the Giants last week. They got the Chargers the week before. These guys have been making us money. Geno Smith, legit MVP conversation. Not winning it, I didn't say that, okay? Just saying legit in the conversation. I mean, I'm riding this train. I'm riding this train until they give me a reason not to. Arizona finds ways to lose. Seattle finds ways to win. That's what we're doing there as we move into the futures market. How do we want to play some teams long term? Last week, I came on here and gave a big rant about the Raiders over their adjusted win total and the Raiders going to the playoffs. And then, about 5 minutes later, the Raiders scored 0 points while getting whooped in New Orleans. I can tear those tickets up now, forget about that, which means you probably want to bet against what you're about to hear. Our focus today is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Adjusted win total is 5.5. They're also 8-1 to finish with the worst record. Those are 2 bets I made this week. Here's the rundown. They're 2-6 right now. Okay, so they need to go 4-5 the rest of the way to beat me on that win total bet. We're going to get to the schedule in just a second, but I want to note they're minus 77 in point differential. That's the absolute worst in the NFL. As for their record at 2-6, 2 teams have 1 win. Detroit, shocker, but they played in a lot of close games. I think they'll be better. Houston has 1 win as well, but they also have 1 tie, so when you factor that in. Teams with 2 wins that are tied with Houston. You have Carolina, the Raiders, and Jacksonville. The Raiders, right? Of course. Of course. So that's where we stand. The schedule the rest of the way, there's a lot of winnable games here, but with the way Pittsburgh's playing, they're also losable. The Saints, the Bengals, Colts, Falcons, Ravens, Panthers, that's a huge game for this bet. Ravens again, Browns, Seahawks, Jaguars, Lions. So they're going to play a lot of teams at the bottom of the barrel. A lot of opportunity here. I'm confident in them going under 5.5 wins. Terrible on defense, brutal on offense. The 8-1, I'm just taking a shot on the worst record. Yes, it's more likely it's probably Carolina, right? It's more than likely. More than likely it could be Houston. But 8-1, I think is too good to pass up right now. So let's flip the page. Reserve your laughter on that joke. Reserve your laughter. Trap games. The weekend's loaded with them. 7 home underdogs on the card for the weekend. We had a home underdog on Thursday night. 7 of them for the weekend. Tread easy. We begin with the Packers laying 3.5 at Detroit. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there just yet. I'm just saying be easy with Green Bay. There's a lot that points to Detroit figuring it out. I know, you've heard it before. You hear it every single week. The Lions are 0-4 in one-score games. All 4 of those games were by 4 or fewer points. That's a metric that points to positive regression coming, right? Long enough sample size, 500 one-score games, should be about 250 and 250. Sometimes you hit the game-winning field goal, sometimes they do. Sometimes you lead a touchdown drive down the field, sometimes they do. To be 0-4 signals to us that at some point it has to turn for the Detroit Lions. They also rank number 1 in the NFL in scoring at home, 35 points per game. Packers, laying 3.5 on the road, they're 18th in scoring. They've been terrible. So as bad as that Lions defense is, just warning you now, I think this is going to be a close game. Number 2, Cincinnati laying 7 against Carolina. A lot of people are going to think, well, Bengals at home, bounce back spot, Carolina stinks. Carolina's feisty. See what they did with Atlanta last week? Like the second Carolina decided to tank, it's the best we've seen them all year. They beat Tampa Bay. They go toe-to-toe with Atlanta. They should have won that game late. My God. Now look, the handicap here, no Jamar Chase for Cincinnati. And they didn't have him last weekend. You know what they produced? Their worst game of the season offensively. 13 points and 229 total yards against the Browns. Without Chase, they are a much different offense. There's a lot of points to cover. And it's going to trend towards 7.5. So if you want to play Carolina, wait. You don't need to take the 7 right now. And then finally, Chargers laying 3 against the Falcons. Are we confident laying points on the road with the Chargers? I know they're off the bye, but big deal. The entire wide receiving unit's banged up. Allen, Mike Williams, who knows who's going to play. The offensive line stinks. Defensively, they haven't been any bit better based on last season. Herbert's got to check down. He's battling this rib injury, and Atlanta's been feisty. Atlanta's been feisty this year. Cover and spread, you're going to give them 3 at home? I'd be careful with the Chargers, man. I'd be careful. Look at who they've beaten this year. The Raiders who stink, the Texans who stink, the Browns who stink, and the Broncos who stink. That's the Chargers' resume. Be careful when you see, oh, they're 4-3. They're not beating anybody. It's a mess of a team. Moment of truth. The People's Parlay. We're changing it up this week. I told you I was getting involved. I want a winner. I'm going to get involved. I want to be personally accountable. So we brought in 2 more people. 3 of us. Obviously, simple math. You should know that. The kicker here is that it has to be moneyline dogs. That was the criteria this week. We're looking to get paid moneyline dogs. I'm going with the Washington Commanders. They are plus 152 over the Vikings. Gave you the analysis earlier. I think Minnesota's fugazi, as Donnie Brasco would say. It's a fugazi. And then on the other side, Commanders have been playing very well. I think they're undervalued. They're at home in this spot. Daniel Snyder says he's selling the team. Everyone probably rallies around that. Who knows if that's a handicapping angle. I'm going to play them. Okay, at Dan Maddox 5. He's playing Syracuse, plus 160 at Pittsburgh. Let's go. I like the juice on that one. And then LJ's Shades, normal ones this week, normal handles. LJ's Shades, he's got the Seahawks plus 110 over the Cardinals. You know I like that. Cliff Kingsbury and his Ray-Bans, love betting against them. This is probably when Arizona gets hot, by the way, now that I'm doing that. So there we go, People's Parlay. Next opportunity for you guys to jump in will be next week. I'll tweet it, OddsShark will tweet it, follow us, jump in with your picks. If we use you and we hit, we're gonna send you a bunch of swag. Thank you all for participating. No one wanted to play the Sunday Night Football game, understood. Do you really want to play the Tennessee Titans on the money line in Kansas City against the Chiefs? Andy Reid off the bye. It's time for chase mode. If you're chasing your money later, you're looking to double down, what do we do Sunday night? Now, that's just how we frame it. Practice smart bankroll management. We always talk about that. Kansas City laying 12.5, total of 45.5 against Tennessee. I like the Titans here. Sounds crazy. Sunday Night Football last week, what did we say? Like the Packers. Like the Packers in that situation. It's a tough one. Here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say Tennessee. Tannehill's been practicing this week, so hopefully he's back. Everyone's going to have the following handicap. Andy Reid off a bye. Andy Reid off a bye. The bookmakers know that. The numbers are inflated as a result. Andy Reid off a bye. Last 5 years regular season, 2-3 against the spread, right? Tennessee can run it with Derrick Henry, at least to some extent. Grind the clock a little bit, slow down the game, keep Mahomes on the sidelines, and then you hope somehow you backdoor it late, right? Let's trail by 17 late, and let's get a late touchdown. Slide right in through the back door. So that's what I'm playing. It's not a play I love, but I do lean to Tennessee, and there'll probably be some props as well. Follow me on Twitter at Joe Fortenbaugh. I'll throw some of those out this weekend. Keep the train moving. Rapid fire props. Speaking of which, we're going to begin. Zach Ertz, Arizona tight end, over 38.5 receiving yards. This number is suppressed because Ertz has caught just 6 passes for 55 yards over his last 2 games because DeAndre Hopkins came off suspension and has taken away his target share. So the bookmakers lower the prop to 38.5. This is where we strike on the over. No team in the NFL is giving up more receiving yards to opposing tight ends than the Seattle Seahawks, an average of 74 per game. Great opportunity for Zach Ertz this weekend. Number 2, Tua Tagovailoa over 1.5 passing touchdowns, minus 157. Talked about this earlier. Bears defense, 19th in scoring defense, 19th in opponent yards per play. Traded away their best defenders in Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. This is a great opportunity for Miami to hang a big number. I like them over 25.5 total points. I'm going to go ahead and bet Tua over 1.5 touchdown passes. And finally, Jared Goff over half an interception. Why not? I'm surprised it's minus 121. He's thrown INTs in 5 of 7 games this year. He's playing the Packers. Even though I kind of like backing the Lions, do we think he's going to play a clean game? He'll probably find a way to turn it over once, through the air that is, so we'll lay the minus 121 there. Finally, to our 6-point teaser of the week, right? 6 points to move the spread. What's the catch? We have to do it with 2 teams, and we have to hit on both. Or you can play a 2-team ties win teaser, and if you tie on one, you end up winning your bet. The Seahawks, they're plus 2 right now against the Arizona Cardinals. Tease them up to 8. Great teaser number because it goes through the key numbers of 3, 4, and 7, all the way up to 8. Should be a competitive game with that offense. We will tease that team with the Commanders. Take them from 3.5 up to 9.5. It's not the best teaser leg, but I think the Commanders win the game outright, and I'd love to throw them in here as well in a teaser. I don't think there's a situation in which Minnesota blows these guys out with the way they've been playing. Thank you for watching. And note, keep your eyes out there. UFC 281 is right around the corner. John Anik and I sat down recently. Anik broke down the entire card. It was phenomenal. He told a great story on going to 6 jiu-jitsu practices and then quitting the sport of jiu-jitsu. That was probably my favorite part of the entire thing, but check it out. A lot of great insights to get ready for UFC 281. Until then, thank you for watching. Best of luck this weekend.